These are the learning goals associated with the topic of linear expressions. You have to know and understand the vocabulary that deals with linear expressions. You have to be able to simplify and evaluate linear expressions. And you have to be able to answer area and perimeter problems that include linear expressions. Vocabulary, Part 1. An expression is a mathematical phrase that can contain numbers, variables, and operators. So I'm just going to draw an example of an expression for you. 3x squared plus 6x plus 4. Now that's actually a quadratic expression. A linear expression will be something like 3x plus 10, where the highest exponent is 1. Another example of a linear expression could be something that's not simplified all the way. For example, 5x minus 11 plus 3x minus 12. A variable is a quantity usually represented by a letter or a symbol, and it has the ability to change or vary depending on the problem. So one day, x could equal 30. The next day, x could equal 27. It just depends on what problem it's in. X is an example of a variable. Y is an example of a variable. Is a number on its own. So in this example up at the top, 3x plus 10, the constant would be 10 because it is by itself. As well as the constant from the first example would be 4. Because it is also by itself. It's the number that's by itself. A coefficient is a number that is attached to a variable through multiplication. So in an example 4x minus 12, the coefficient would be 4. But in the example negative 5x plus 6, the coefficient would be negative 5. Operators are simply the symbol that we use for operations like addition and subtraction, multiplication and division. So the operators in the two examples or expressions above would be a minus symbol and also a plus symbol. Terms are the pieces of an expression. So if I had an expression 6x minus 4, it would have two terms in it. The first term would be 6x, that's one piece of the expression, and the second term would be the negative 4. In the expression of negative 5y plus 10x minus 3, there are three terms. The first term is negative 5y, the second term is a positive 10x, and the third term is a negative 3. Factors are numbers, letters, terms, or expressions that are multiplied by one another. So for example, if I have an expression like 5x, the factors are 5 and x, because 5x is really the same thing as 5 times x, so these two things are being multiplied by one another. So we would call those things factors. 5 is a factor and x is a factor in the expression of 5x. To simplify something in algebra is basically to take something that is complicated or that looks complicated and to make it look more simple. The way that we do that is by using various mathematical laws and properties that we've learned in the past. To substitute is to replace unknown values with known values. So usually it means replacing unknown values, which are usually in the form of variables, with known values, which are normally in the form of numbers. Problem number 1. Identify all the coefficients in the expression below. Remember that the definition of coefficient was a number that is multiplied by a variable. So in this example, in this expression, we have a 3 that's being multiplied by an x. And then we also have this negative 2 right here, which is being multiplied by a y. Problem number 2. Identify the constant in the expression below. So if you remember from the definition, a constant is a number that's all by itself. So right here, there's a 7 that's being multiplied by an x. Those two are things that are together. And then there's a negative 24 all by itself out here. So the constant in this expression would be negative 24. And it's all by itself. It's very lonely. Problem number 3. How many factors are in the expression below? So remember that factors are things that are multiplied by one another. So in this expression, I'm going to break it apart into things that are multiplied together. So that's 2 times y times the quantity x plus 6. So in this situation, you see that there are 3 factors. So there's a 2, a y, and a quantity of x plus 6. So the answer to problem 3 is 3.